Hi, and welcome to this introduction to the program Flat, Fluid and Flexible. With me is Frederick Schneider, who's going to be presenting this program. So, Frederick, can you give us a quick overview of the program?
Sure, Paul. I guess it's best if I explain the title, Flat, Fluid, Flexible. And I won't be telling you any secrets if I tell you that today we're facing unprecedented issues. Everybody's talking about VUCA, Bani, the death of strategy, and all that. And the problem is that organizations, especially large, established ones, are often unable to react flexibly to today's challenges. So they're brittle and break at almost random, unexpected times. We saw that with Credit Suisse, for example. And the reason why organizations are so inflexible is because their internal structures and procedures are rigid. There is a lot of inertia. And so to be able to react more flexibly to outside challenges, organizations need to become less rigid and more fluid on the inside. And the predominant structure of organizations today is the pyramid, the command and control hierarchy. And the predominant procedural style is bureaucracy, which usually goes hand in hand with steep, rigid hierarchies. And so this program proposes to look at different alternative structures that are flat and that can replace these pyramidal structures and to generally make structures and procedures more adaptable, more nimble. So that's the fluid part, which will then translate into making the organization as a whole more flexible, that is more innovative, more resilient, and more proactive towards outside challenges.
Right. Well, we'll dig a bit deeper into the content shortly, but can you tell us who would benefit from the program?
Everybody who's working or navigating within or with organizations, so corporations, startups, charities, NGOs, but also public service. We all feel very frustrated with these organizations and their dysfunction. And so everybody who wants to change the way organizations work will benefit. That includes executives, but also, of course, middle management, startup founders, and also consultants and coaches who want to broaden the scope of their services to include that kind of topic. And also probably, paradoxically, people who are already working in flat organizations, holacracy, sociocracy, teal, cooperatives, because flat organizations are not without their own challenges, and they might take away some hints and benefits from this.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you've been doing in this area, the kind of clients you've been working with, and the challenges you've been helping them deal with?
Yes, so I'm a behavioral economist by training. My research concerns how and when people cooperate within teams and within organizations, when they don't cooperate, when and why people trust each other or maybe distrust each other. And so over the years, I've come to incorporate this research into my executive education at various business schools. And I've noticed that business schools often lack good executive education in organizational design. So the more big picture, and especially modern alternatives to conventional corporate design. And so that's what this program is meant to fill and to equip managers to move beyond patching up in a touch and go matter organizational failure with quick fixes. Every industry and every sector can really benefit from that.
Can you tell us a little bit more about each of the modules in the program then?
Sure. The first week is about the big picture, and we will lay the foundation for the entire program. We'll have a good hard look at today's organizational dysfunction and discuss how this dysfunction is related to the prevailing organizational design, that is command and control pyramids flanked by rigid bureaucracies. We will touch upon why certain efforts to counter this rigidity, like agile or lean, sometimes fail to make a lasting impact. And we will present an alternative to this organizational design, which is flat, how this can look like. We will see that this is actually relatively common. So flat, decentralized, almost fractal organizational designs are common both in nature and in human organizations, and they are naturally fluid, flexible, and resilient in adverse environments. Then we will spend 2 weeks on leadership. So the first week will deal with the traditional kind of leader and why this is not really a suitable leadership paradigm for flat organizations. And we will discuss an alternative new kind of leader, and we will learn that the set of qualities that this new kind of leader needs is diametrically opposed to the set of qualities that a coercive or dominant leader has. And then in the third week, we will discuss in more depth what I like to call emergent leadership. So that's the idea that in flat organizations, everybody is a leader sometimes. So what I mean by that is that leadership is a role that you can slip in and out of. Leadership is not a person and a fixed job. And who we should consider to be a leader depends on who is best suited to lead a team in a given context, in a given time or situation, who's willing and able to step up, and probably most importantly, who is most accepted by the quote-unquote followers to be leading at that time. And then for the next part, we will transition to specific aspects of the organization. So week 4 will be about the role of information in organization. And information flow is both the most vital part of modern organizations, but at the same time also probably the most dysfunctional, I would say. Decision-making, innovation, creativity, all of these things are team sports, if you will. And this is where flat organizations excel, really, because they lack these information filters and distortions that come with the pyramid hierarchy. If handled well, they can maximize transparency, they can maximize information flow, exchange of ideas. And we will see a couple of case studies of that in action and some methods how to get there. Then weeks 5, 6, and 7 will focus on the distinct ways in which flat organizations handle decision-making, motivation, and communication, respectively. The reason being that in flat organization, decision-making happens on the shop floor, if you will, and usually involves the consent of the team. And so we need alternative methods for decision-making. The same goes for motivation. With flat organizations, we lack the traditional extrinsic motivators, so the carrot and the stick. And flat organizations, they have different and often superior sources of motivation. And finally, communication patterns are also much different in flat organizations. For example, in the absence of a centralized way of conflict resolution, members of flat organizations need to resolve their conflicts themselves. And so they need to be equipped to do so. So that's week 7. In the third part of the program, we will try to bring all of these aspects together that we learned so far and look at more case studies, how these elements combine to make flat organizations excel in different areas. So week 8, we will discuss how and when flat organizations are more efficient because they avoid certain dysfunctions of centralized hierarchical organizations and the sclerosis of bureaucracy. And also more scalable because they tend to have this almost fractal, self-similar, replicable structure and have a great autonomy within their substructures. So that makes them quite scalable. Week 9 then focuses on the ways in which flatness translates into more flexibility. By being both more reactive and more proactive, and as a result, generally more resilient to today's challenges and uncertainties. And then in week 10, we'll focus on why flat organizations are such great places to work. So we will talk about 3 different Fs, freedom, fairness, and fulfillment. So for example, flat organizations tend to provide members with more autonomy on the job and also with more psychological safety. So we will see how that works with a couple of examples. And then we have the final 2 weeks where we zoom out again to the big picture. Week 11 will be about how all these key ingredients can be brought together, how they interact. And we will discuss a couple of concrete flat paradigms that have been proposed in the last couple of decades and their strengths and weak spots also. And then finally, week 12 will cap off. And we will look at the future of organizations, what that future might look like in terms of flatness. And we will also have 2 different lenses to view that through. So one will be systems thinking and systems-led leadership. And the other will be behavioral change.
Okay, fantastic. So can you just give us a sort of quick summary of what you think the key things you're hoping people will get out of the program?
Well, hopefully by the end of the program, participants will have a solid grasp of organizational design, a more systemic and holistic understanding of their organization, and why and how flat or flatter structures with more fluid internal procedures can make their organization better and more flexible. And they will have seen many case studies of different types of approaches to flatness and seen some practices and tools they can start using in their own organization.
Okay, fantastic. So just to remind you, each week we'll also have the live sessions, discussions with people on each module each week based on their experience or their research and insights. So hopefully you'll be able to join us. Our program starts September 13th. It's going to be for 12 weeks. And do check out the website for full details. Thank you.